This is huge, Spurs family. It's the battle of the big men tonight. Victor Wembanyama goes head-to-head with a top defender in the NBA in Walker Kessler as Victor continues to show the league why he's the next best big man of the NBA. Welcome into the Spurs Digest Pre Game show. I am your host, Bryan Colbert. So happy to be here with you guys. Thank you, Spurs Digest family, for supporting. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. That's right. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that little doorbell so you get notified every time we drop a video. We are going to continue to give you content more and more as the season gets closer, as the season continues, as the season goes. We are going to give you so much content, so we cannot wait for you guys to see what we have in store for you all. And thank you so much for supporting. So again, make sure you subscribe. And again, another game of Spurs preseason basketball. We're taking on the Utah Jazz at 7 p.m. Central Time, and it's huge because, again, we are just seeing Victor Wembanyama be able to play more basketball. And we're seeing Pop has no issue with letting that boy play and letting him get these minutes in. And we saw a lot of good things in their win over the Orlando Magic. The Spurs beat the Orlando Magic 107-97. And the Magic play their guys, Spurs play their guys too. Of course, you know, there's still a few guys out. Keldon didn't end up playing. Devin didn't end up playing. But we still saw some things that are worth talking about. So let's get right into it. When you looked at what Victor Wembanyama was able to do, as soon as he was able to get on that court, he looked so impressive, man. It's so interesting to see him with like a true point guard that just loves throwing lobs because, oh my goodness, Chris Paul was in heaven throwing Victor Wembanyama those lobs, and he just was throwing it up to him every time and just forcing him to go up there and get it and make a play. Victor even went and did like and it looks crazy because he's so tall and so long, but that windmill he did was so dope to see. Just him back, and like he just looks good. Like, right, you could tell Olympic basketball kept him in superior shape, and he looks ready to play. And we got a little taste of what we're going to be seeing from the Spurs, and I think tonight we'll get another taste in that because, like I said, he's going to be playing a guy that, you know, is great defensively. You know, one of the next big defensive big men in the NBA, we're assuming, and he's a tall guy too. Like, he's not a little guy, and I think it's a good test for a player like Victor Wembanyama, where you got a guy like Walker Kessler who can block, who knows how to use verticality to not get called on too many fouls. And yeah, I just think it's going to be a really good matchup to see. And I think anytime we could start seeing Victor going up against these other big, long, big men that are strong, that play defense, I think it's a big indication of what we're going to see this year. So I'm excited to see what them two look like. You know, again, we know it's preseason. We know it's not going to be, you know, a ton of 115% effort basketball. But whenever the Spurs get out there, you could tell they're locked in. And there's a game plan to be had. And Popovich is still running these game plans very, very well. And a guy like Victor is going to only thrive in that. They're building around him. And, man, he looks good. He looks ready to be a leader of this team. One thing I am interested to see, though, not just so much this matchup, but just the depth behind Victor. Zach Collins is hurt. Charles Bassey's coming back from a knee injury. So that's a lot of depth right there. But, like, I just don't see the size that you would expect the Spurs to have with a guy like Victor. Like, you want to be able to see Victor move up and play the 4. You want to be able to see him play the 5 as well. However, you want him to have some depth because Pop is very, you know, he's very interesting with Wemby's minutes. He's not giving Wemby, you know, an over amount of minutes. I don't know if it's because of his size. I don't know if it's just getting him acclimated. I don't know if it's because last season wasn't a lot of winning basketball. But if Victor's not going to be on that court, you need somebody that's going to be able to defend the rim. And I just don't know if they really have that. Like Zach Collins, I love him, man. He works hard. He's great. But I think that you need more. You need more strength down there. You need more somebody else that can impose that will. I was really expecting to see that. I knew they'd add a point guard. I didn't know it would be Chris Paul, but I knew they would try to add a point guard. But I just really assumed that they would add another center, just another rim protector. So that's something that I'm looking at this whole preseason, is really looking at that depth of because they have some shooters. They have some guys that can stretch the floor that play the 4 and the 5. However, I'm not really seeing a lot of that rim protection, and it's something that, you know, you want to see when you're, you know, looking at the Spurs team, because again, you know, you want Victor to be able to defend that rim, but you also, on the other side of the ball, both sides, honestly, you want to be able to play on that perimeter too. Like the way that he's going to be able to switch by playing that 4 position is going to be huge for the Spurs. And I'm actually excited to see how that goes. And another person I'm really excited to see, Stephon Castle. Stephon Castle has looked good. he kind of picked up where he left off in the summer league. I mean, that last game in the summer league, I think he had like over 20 points, hurt his wrist, but then he comes out and he has another great game. I think he had 17 points, and he scored well. He played defense. He picked up full court. He looked really good. He just looks like a piece that's ready to fit. He doesn't look like a 19-year-old. He doesn't look like a 19-year-old kid, man. I don't know if it's his size. I don't know if it's his demeanor, but like he just goes out there and plays. And he was aggressive. He wasn't scared. He didn't let the moment get too big for him. It was actually really cool to see him be able to out there and play with those guys. And he's going to be a big piece of what we get with Victor in the future, right? Like, there's a reason they picked this kid the draft right after Victor, right? Like, they're the number 4 overall pick. That's a high pick right there. And they really see this guy as somebody that can build with Victor, build with Jeremy Sochan. And I really feel like they have a nice core young 3 in these 3 guys. And to me, the most impressive thing about Castle was his ability to get to the line. Oh, my goodness. I think he went 7 to 10 from the free throw line, which is very efficient. But just being able to get to the line at such a young age, that is one of those things that, like, guys learn as they become veterans, as they learn, like, tricks of the trade and all that. But Castle has found a way to use this magnificent size to his advantage early on. This is NBA basketball. He's going up against some pretty solid guards. Like, don't forget the Orlando Magic. They're one of the better teams in the East last year, and he went head-to-head with these guys, and he looked really, really good. Like I said, he was able to get to that line. He looked like somebody that's very comfortable, somebody that's been playing in the league a lot longer than what he's actually been playing. And as we approach this game, guys, let's look into the things that we need to see. First things first, we need to see better shooting. Victor, I think, went 0 for 5 from 3. And, like, that's not normal, right? We know Victor's going to get his shot down and all that. But, I mean, the team as a whole did not shoot great. It was not a great shooting night. I think that it was 14 for 44 from the 3. That's not going to cut it. That is not going to cut it, especially when you have a guy like Victor who is giving you space. These are open shots that are being missed. Like, these shots are open, and there's going to be a lot of open shots when you have guys like Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama on that court. We want to see people hitting more shots. Harrison Barnes, I mean, he's a big dude, but, like, he's there to stretch the floor. Jeremy Sochan, he has to hit these shots. There's guys that need to come out here and hit these shots. And, of course, we got to, put it on Wemby as well. Wemby has to hit those shots as well, but I don't think any of us have doubt that those shots are going to fall as Wemby, just gets comfortable and as the season actually takes off, right? Like, again, this is preseason. We're not seeing, our best of the best. But one thing that did look really, really good and was really fun was the way Chris Paul was just throwing it to Victor, man. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that connection because, again, like, there would be plays where you could tell that the timing wasn't there. And Chris Paul was just forcing it up. But again, when you have a guy like Victor who can just put his hands up and his hands already be at the rim, why not just throw it up? And Chris Paul knows that, right? And Victor just has to be ready for that because there were so many times last year when you're just like, bro, why have they not gotten Victor the ball? They weren't feeding him enough. And I feel like with this is going to be way different. And Victor has to get used to that, right? Victor has to get used to being seen even when he doesn't think he is seen, being ready for the ball at all times. Because when you play with a guy like Chris Paul, you have to be ready for that at all times. And then my last thing I'm looking for tonight against the Utah Jazz is bench depth. I want to see who's going to really be those scorers off the bench. This is going to be a Malachi Branham. Castle, I'm assuming is going to come off the bench to start the season. This is going to be, I don't know if Keldon's playing tonight, but he didn't play last night. I want to see where that bench scoring is going to come from. And, again, that depth, especially down low. I want to see who's going to be able to protect that rim when Victor is not on the court, who's going to be able to play those center positions because I don't know if you want to have to lean on Jeremy Sochan and Keldon to play your fives when Victor's on the bench. Again, I know guys are, coming back. I know guys are hurt, but to me that's going to be a pain point all season is that depth at the big man spots at the 5 and the 4. But again, there's plenty of time to see that. And before we go, I have to give love to a legend. Danny Green announced his retirement after a 15-year career, 15 NBA seasons. 6 of those were with the Spurs. And before we go, Spurs family, I have to get a shout out to an NBA legend, an NBA champion, and honestly, I got to imagine maybe a future Hall of Famer in Danny Green. 15 NBA seasons, 8 of those with the San Antonio Spurs, where he was a huge part of that 2014 championship win. Big shout out to Danny Green. He announced his retirement, and I wanted to take time to just show him love because, like, when you think of Spurs, when you think of those like guys that aren't like the stars, the Ginobili or the Tony Parker or Tim Duncan, you think Danny Green. I just remember how much of a problem he was. Like, I remember him getting big blocks against LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and just being a key piece of that. And like his 3-and-D, like he is 3-and-D. When you think of a 3-and-D guy, your prototypical perfect 3-and-D player, you are thinking Danny Green. So huge shout out to Danny Green. Huge shout out to him for an amazing NBA career. I can't wait to see what he does after the fact. Like, I feel like Danny Green's one of those guys that could do anything. He could be doing podcasts. He could be on YouTube with us. He could be doing all kind of different things. Or he can go work with the Spurs organization. That was one of my favorite things about working with the Spurs organization was how they allow their legends to stay very, very close, whether they're coaching, whether they're being advisors, whether they're just hanging out and watching, practice. They keep their Spurs people really, really close. And to me, that's a big, big deal, especially when you're developing a lot of young guys. Having just legends around the building, guys you can pick their brain to, guys that have been there before, that done it, that just have that championship pedigree when they walk around. Remember, Danny Green won championships at a few stops. He went to Toronto and got one. He went to LA and got one. So this is a guy that really knows how to win and just had an amazing NBA career and deserves his love and deserves his flowers. And Spurs family, y'all deserve y'all flowers. Again, thank you guys so much for supporting Spurs Digest, man. We are so excited for the season to begin. That's why we are knocking out these pregame videos and trying to get, in our flow before the season even starts, because it's preseason, baby. NBA is back. Hoops is back. We love that. And we love y'all, Spurs family. Remember to subscribe, to share, to comment, talk to us, ask us questions. I can go through the comments and, bring them up live on these shows. So, we really want to have fun and have some interaction with you guys, man. So we can't wait to hear from you guys. Spurs family, I am Bryan Colbert Jr. Let's get this W over the Utah Jazz tonight. I'm out.